welcome to another episode of Conversations with a Love Activist. I am Tule, your love activist. As you know, I am on this heroine's journey of self-love and self-healing. And these past couple of weeks, I've been talking about all things to do with womb health, womb mapping, womb clearing, womb pollution. And I was really stuck about what am I going to talk about next. And the Holy Spirit done tricked me to talk about sex. The Holy Spirit, my guide, said you can't talk about, womb clearing and abundance and, creation power without talking about sex, because sex is the ultimate creation energy. It is God energy. And so I'll be very uncomfortably sharing my sexual journey with you, how my sexual journey is actually connected to my inner childhood wounds, and how I'm actively trying to look at places that I've been avoiding for a very long time. So please do subscribe, share, follow us, and stay tuned for more amazing content. I love you. Sex has taught me how little self-worth I had. A Course in Miracles says that the Holy Spirit will use every and any relationship for you to heal. And I didn't realize how much I had a huge fear of rejection until I met my husband. And the lengths I would go to avoid being rejected. And I know this extreme people pleasing started in childhood, especially when my mother got very busy building her empire, as a child whose primary love language is quality time, not having quality time with someone that you love. Literally, in my head, I thought that my mom was actively trying to avoid me, that she was creating scenarios so that we don't spend time together. And mind you, she's in hotel rooms crying because she misses her children. And so over time, this huge wound developed that I am not worthy. I am not enough. And so I need to earn being enough. And so sex became that way for me to earn being enough. When I was a virgin, I remember feeling so powerful. That's the only way I can put it. I felt so powerful, like my virginity was this superpower. In strip clubs, mind you, at the age of 16, being taught how to twerk by actual professional strippers and dance, professional dancers. And I would feel so powerful in the sense that I was the one in control. I would put the boundary that, no, you can come closer and dance with me. No, you cannot. You, I don't think so. You, okay, maybe. And then, I'm done with you, bye. And I just felt this lightness and this power. Even though, I was surrounded, my sisters are beautiful. And so really, I thought that people would not see me or notice me. But that wasn't the case. And it's now hitting me how true it is that sex is an energy exchange, because the more people I had sex with, the bigger the wound of I'm not enough and I need to prove I'm enough with my body became. The wound that originated as a mother wound is now translating itself in my sex life. I'm shooting this right now in my young adult bed, and I've cried so many nights in this bed going, what's wrong with me? Why won't anyone see me? Am I not lovable? Am I not good enough? Why did he ghost me again? Why is this always happening to me? And why are men such shitbags? And I always felt like the power always lay with the man. He is the one who had the power in the relationship, and I was just a passenger along for the ride, which then obviously kept my victim story very much intact and very much on point. I'm such a loving person and such a giving person. I didn't realize that I had I had a phobia towards commitment because of the fact that, when I fell in love with the love of my life, not Quentin, my first love of my life, that was the first time sex was this beautiful, like my body responded in ways I had never known were possible to sex. And every time we had sex, it just made our relationship richer and richer and richer. And the richer the more in love I fell, the more afraid I became that this is too good to be true, and so it's going to end. And if it ends when we're too high up, I'm going to be completely devastated. So let me rather end this now, and then I'll beat tragedy to the punch, and I won't be devastated. And I was completely devastated, obviously. And that's where my phobia towards commitment began. And I literally started having, I wouldn't say one night stands. I would have some kind of relationship with this person. I'd have sex with them once and then never want to see them again. And that's how it'd go. We'd be doing our little thing for 3 months. We'd have sex and then I'm done. But I'd convince myself that he's the one who ended it. He ghosted me. He, and it was never about me until I started on this consciousness journey and started to understand that if I'm not part of the problem, if I'm not part of the solution, I'm definitely 100% part of the problem. That relationships are there to help me heal. We drag so much wounding from our childhood into our relationships without realizing it, that actually I'm not upset that he didn't call me. I'm upset because I haven't spoken to my dad in 3 years and I don't know where he is and I don't know what he's up to. I'm not crying, or I don't have this constant fear that I'm going to be rejected by men because of men, but because I thought or felt like my mom constantly rejected me because we didn't spend enough time with each other. And so I started to understand that I actually have power to create and that I am creating my life. And that was a hard pill to swallow because I had to admit that men are not trash. I need to take responsibility for myself and stop giving people way too much access to me and my body. I need to put boundaries and I need to give myself all these things that I'm expecting men to give me, because I can't tell you the fear I felt. It was literally, I thought it was normal to live with a beating heart in your chest that no one will ever love you. Literally, that's what I lived with day in, day out. Until I went, no, enough is enough. I've slept now with like 29 people at this point, and I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting any closer to feeling the worthiness that I'm looking for in other people. I mean, to the point where I even tried to manufacture a relationship with someone who raped me and convinced myself it wasn't rape. That is how deep this quest of proving my worthiness went. And so when I decided that I'm not going to terrorize boys anymore, in fact, the way I even came to that is that I read in A Return to Love that see your brother as innocent first, because that is what he is. And to see your brother's innocence is to see your own. And I was like, hell no, these dogs are trash. Ain't nobody innocent here. Everybody is out here wronging me. My mom is wronging me. My brother's constantly fighting with me. Guys are constantly ghosting me. I'm the victim, and I give and give and give, and people take and take and take. So I'm not going to see the innocence. And at some point, I was living here. I was living with my mom, and my little brother was living here too, while he was in varsity. And we were fighting constantly, constantly. Every day, 3 times a day, we'd be fighting. And I decided, cheeky actually, well, I'm going to try this, see the innocence, stupid little theory out. And when my brother would do something or say something that would, on a normal day, trigger a fight, I would go, my brother is the most loving brother you've ever seen in your life. This person that I'm interacting with is my wounded brother, and all I can do is love that part, but I will not respond to insanity. My brother is loving. My brother says words that are kind. My brother is patient. My brother is not moody and doesn't shut down and doesn't communicate. He communicates. And I would literally do this every single time. And it hit me 2 weeks later when he came with a tray with breakfast, and he said to me, I just want you to know that I love you so much. That this seeing the innocence thing had worked, because we hadn't fought for 2 weeks straight. So, see, now I have it in real time practice, and literally ever since then, our relationship has been one of love, 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 And so I decided, okay, the problem here is that I'm not seeing my innocence, and I'm trying to outsource the feeling of self-love, the feeling of being enough. I'm trying to outsource it through men, and I'm using sex as my currency to pay for that. That I have given you vagina, and so in return, you owe me affirmations, you owe me validation, you owe me your time, you owe me all these things. And so I decided I am going to run up my own bill with myself. I'm not going to terrorize boys anymore. I see men as innocent first. I literally stopped having trash talk conversations with my girlfriends. Literally, I would get so upset. I'd be like, no, that is not, men are not like that. That is what we have experienced, but it doesn't mean men are like that. And I literally stopped my language around how men are. I started to see that in places where I thought I was a victim, I was actually the perpetrator. Started calling people and apologizing to say, hi, I'm so sorry. I actually used you to up my self-worth, and I am so sorry for burdening you with work that was actually mine to do. And I went through this process of actively cutting soul ties with people. Or let me say, cutting the soul debts that I had created for all the men that I had slept with. And by literally naming them and saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, go in peace. Go in peace, Mtana Sakaya, go in peace. Literally, I did that for all 29 people and said, I am going to spend 1 full year loving on myself, 1 full year spending quality time with myself, taking myself out on dates, being the weirdo. Literally, there's a time after church where I went and had lunch at a Indian restaurant, and I bought myself bubbles because I love bubbles, and I was sitting in this Indian restaurant just blowing bubbles. And people are like, oh, is someone coming to join you? I'm like, nope, I'm out on a date with myself. And the more I did that, the more I enjoyed myself and enjoyed my own company and realized that the feeling that I've been trying to outsource through sex, I have it. I've had it all along. And literally 4 months later, I met my husband. Um, but that didn't mean that the work stopped. Relationships, as the Course in Miracles says, are centers of healing. And so what relationships will do, it will trigger the unhealed places for you to, deal with, the places that you've managed to ignore. And I had many, many, many places that I had not dealt with. The As much as I was going through this process of dating myself and loving myself, I still had a big self-worth wound, that I originated from me believing that my mom does not love me. And the deeper in this committed relationship me and Quentin became, the more I realized I had to actually work on my relationship with my mother. I have to heal this relationship with my mother so that I can heal this relationship with myself, so that I can grow my business. Because this feeling that I am not enough and outsourcing my being enough trickled into my relationship, into my business. I didn't believe that I had any value to give or offered any value. And I used my business as another channel of victimizing myself, or what's the word? What do nuns do when they hit themselves? Self-flagellation, where I would try to earn the love of my business by suffering and suffering, suffering. The same way I used to earn love through sex. I did the same thing with my business. Not sleeping, not being paid for months and months on end. Um, Full start after full start of a full start, constantly being in financial crisis, constantly being in financial turmoil, never having cash flow, always having compliance problems, and our books never being in order, and I believe that I wasn't the person to to lead that and to get us straight. Other people had more value to give. My other business partners were better than me, and so I stepped back and hid in the background and victimized myself that, okay, if anything goes wrong, then it's on them. They are the ones who didn't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So my low self-worth that I tried to gain or pay for or barter for through sex was now coming through in my business as well. You know, I did a course with Gogo Sophia, a womb clearing course. And in the womb clearing course, it talks about womb pollution. And that one of the signs of womb pollution is that if every time you have sex with someone, suddenly that person loses business, they go into financial disorder, and literally, I can't even count how many times that the person would get fired. The business that was thriving would all of a sudden go out of, spiral. We literally used to joke about this with my sisters before I knew about womb pollution, that, oh, you find a guy who's doing well and then you have sex with him, and then all of a sudden it does, like, it don't go right anymore. And I realized that even happened with me and Quentin, where Quentin, when I met him, had his businesses were going well, things were doing, he had just started a new business and he had clients and things were going really well. And then, things just stopped and spiraled out of control. And then I was pregnant, and we went into, financial trauma, basically, that um, I need to heal from myself. But only very recently am I making the connections between the fact that because I didn't love myself and see my body as a sacred space, I just had no boundaries and let people use my body as a dumping ground. During this lockdown, me and Quentin had a very deep conversation. We were watching a show on Netflix about online dating and dating, with technology. And this guy was talking about the fact that, when he was in high school, he was invisible. He was the friend zone guy. That's who he was. And for him, sex or access to a woman's body was like a huge deal. It was not something you take lightly because a woman's body is, in his mind was sacred. And then he went into, he was part of the first group to go into Big Brother. And when he got out of the house, he was an instant celebrity. Now, all of a sudden, all the girls want to date him. And so he would be like, no, I am dating Kule. And so no. And the girl would be like, no, who said I want to date you? I just want to have sex with you. That's all. I just want to have sex with you. And he said, after the 10th time of that happening, he lost his innocence. And we started having a conversation about men and their innocence, and realized that I'd never looked at manhood in the context of having innocence. And then Quentin, in this conversation, started to say or ask me that, do you realize that your bodies receive energy? Do women understand that? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, for example, if I, as your husband, am feeling not okay, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling, anxious, do you notice that we don't have sex when that's the case? I'm like, yeah. He's like, the reason why I don't is because I understand that I'll be dumping my frustrations, my depression, that energy, that bad energy into you. And so I do not shit where I eat. And so I'll sort myself out so that I don't use your body as a dumping ground. It's like, oh, what? And mind you, I have all these resources that have said over and over and over again that, my body is sacred and that there's an energy exchange during sex. I had personally gone through the process of breaking soul ties of people that I had sex with before I met my husband. But it just hit me so hard that we do use each other as dumping grounds of our emotions. And that, in fact, the more people I allowed access to my body, the heavier I felt because they were using my body as a dumping ground. And of course, that's going to affect how I do business. Of course, it's going to affect how I interact with my mom. Of course, it's going to affect how what kind of life I think I deserve, because now I'm carrying all this crap, all this shit from other people, that I allowed, and I allowed access because I didn't acknowledge how sacred my body is, how sacred my womb space is. And so it's hitting me now in this journey. So during lockdown, a friend of mine sent us the Deepak Chopra 21-day meditation. Now, I had done them for many years, since 2016, and I had never completed not even one. But this was the first time I was doing it in a group, and I did all 21 days. But the amazing thing is that the more days I clocked, the hornier I became. How weird. And so I was like, this is strange. Why am I feeling so aroused? Especially after I meditate. And I looked up, sex and sacred energy, and it said that, sexual energy is God energy. It's what creates everything that we see, Literally a seed gets fertilized and it grows into an oak tree. The soil receives that seed and, creates an environment for it to flourish and be abundant. And so, because I suppose as I was doing these meditations, which a lot of them are very self-love centric, the more loving towards myself I felt, the hornier I became. And the hornier I became, the more creative I felt, the more lighter I felt, the more inspired I felt. And from that time, Conversations with a Love Activist was born. It was born from that sexual, sensual energy that I was feeling. And it's hitting me now how important sex is and how important it is to see yourself as a body that deserves love, a body that deserves intimacy, a body that deserves tenderness, but that you are willing to give that to yourself first so that all these other areas can flourish, so that, you can show up in your business, the fullest version of yourself. You can show up, in your relationships with Malibongwe as a mom who is unhindered by pain and wounding, but is coming into herself the deeper she goes into this radical self-love journey. I've noticed these days when I pass the mirror, I don't look at the fault of my body anymore. I'm like, hey, that ass is looking good, girl. Hey, that bum is lifting. Hey, that waist is snatched. Look at you, honey boo. The deeper, the sexier I feel, the more confident I feel, the better I show up in my own life. Huh. I get it. Okay, friends. I know that was like such a long roundabout way to talk about sex, but yeah, it's there's still a lot that I need to unpack, because sex is also sensitive in the sense that I've had a violation. I was raped, and so I still need to unpack and heal that, and the course in mourning the loss of my innocence, and being angry about the fact that I didn't create those boundaries and I just let anyone and everyone just pass through my life, and felt powerless for the longest time, instead of understanding that I'm powerful and that I am the one who creates my life, and I'm not a passenger in my own life. I can never be a passenger in my own life. Is healing me, and is healing my relationship with my husband, and is healing my relationship with my daughter. And there's more to unpack and more to unlearn, and this is what we're on this journey about. Next week, I'll be talking with Quentin on this platform, so that should be interesting. I love you and stuff. I hope this was helpful. I feel like it was awkward and like I was rambling, but I hope it was helpful. I love you. I know there was a lot. I'm an oversharer, as you now have come to know. But I hope that there was some nuggets that you could take away from me sharing my sexual exploits with you. Please do share in the comments about your experiences with sex. Yes, that is my sex result. Oh gosh. Anyway, please share in the comments below about your awarenesses or your experiences with sex and sacred energy, and let's learn and grow together. I love you. Next week I'll be doing this with Quentin. I'm not nervous at all. Baba help me. And we'll be talking about our relationship and sex and resentment and all these fun things that one wants to talk about. But I have to. Why did I do this? Why? Anyway, I love you guys. Have an amazing, awesome week, and I will see you next week. I love you. I love you. I love you. Okay, I'm gonna stop now.